Okay, so welcome to the Ireland Chapter of PMI, our lunchtime series of webinars. Thank you for joining us again. I've just kicked off the webinar live. Today, we're going to be talking about Microsoft Project Plan 1 for the accidental project manager. So for those of us who are not doing this full-time or we're doing it part-time, we are delighted that today not only are we being sponsored by Wellingtone, but we also have a guest presenter, Baz, from Wellingtone as well. So hello, Baz, and welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks, Katrina. Nice to be here.
Thanks very much, Baz. So, guys, as I said, today Baz is going to speak to us about Microsoft Project Plan 1. So just a little bit about Baz. We always like to give you a bit of a background about our presenters. So he is an experienced Microsoft PPM consultant, and he's a director at Wellingtone. He works closely with the Microsoft UK project team, and he's often tasked with helping organizations out to address issues with their project and portfolio management. So he has been directly involved in a number of significant implementations across a multiple type of organizations, and he's worked in both private and public sector. So for us today, he is ideally placed really to come to us today and give us a demo of Microsoft Project Plan 1. I get a lot of questions, and I know other members of the committee get a lot of questions. What's a good planning tool to use? I get regular questions on it, even at work as well. And some of us from time to time, myself included, have been known to use Microsoft Excel or even Notebook to plan our projects. So today's demo is a welcome update, because ideally what we're trying to show you here is maybe it's been years since you've gone on your Microsoft project, and this is an opportunity for you to have somebody show you the ropes on Microsoft Project Plan 1 and show you a little bit about how maybe it can connect to other, I think Power BI was one of the ones that you're going to talk about today, so other applications as well. So as usual, before I hand over to Baz, I just want to say a little bit word about Menti.com. So grab your phone, go to Menti.com and enter the code 5250061. I'm going to kick that Menti presentation off in a second. So Baz is going to introduce himself. He's going to talk a little bit, and he's going to get right into the demo then. And he's got a couple of questions for you at the beginning as well, just to see who we've got in the audience today. So we've got 35 people actually joining us already. So without further ado, Baz, thank you very much for joining us today. And I will hand over to you and let you share, and I'll get working on the Menti presentation as well. Hey, Baz.
Thank you very much, Katrina. I'm going to just get my presentation shared. So that's now online. I'm going to stop my video just to keep the focus on the presentation itself. And let's get into this. So good afternoon, and thank you to everyone that's joined this webinar to learn more about Microsoft Project for the Web, otherwise referred to as Project Plan 1, which is quite a recent solution from Microsoft that builds on the legacy of Microsoft Project, which has been available now since 1984. That's the same year, by the way, that Terminator was released, as well as Back to the Future. Sorry, no, not Back to the Future, Ghostbusters and a few more, like Police Academy, one of my favorites. The solution we're talking about today is very much geared towards accidental project managers, as mentioned earlier. So these are really people that they're really subject matter experts that have somehow ended up managing projects. So this could include people like marketing managers, product managers, and even lawyers. So if you're someone who needs to define a set of tasks, assign deadlines, and people to get the work done, and you're currently using a solution like Excel or Planner, then Project for the Web is definitely the right solution for you. So just before we get into it, again, feel free to post questions during the session. I will review them towards the end with Katrina.
Yep.
So the agenda for today, I'll start with a quick intro to Wellington before looking at the background to Microsoft Project Plan 1, before then moving on to a live demo, after which I'll outline next steps and share my contact details. And of course, we'll have a Q&A session at the end. Firstly, a bit about Wellington. We started way back in 2001 as a pure project management consulting firm based in Windsor. Today, we've got offices in the UK, we've got offices in Ireland and Spain. We offer quite a wide variety of services that span consultancy, training, and technology, with a real focus on project and work management. We've managed to collect quite a few badges along the way, and today we're recognized as a specialist Microsoft Gold PPM partner. And we're also a P3M3 accredited consulting organization as well. We also run and compile the annual State of Project Management report, with a latest edition now being available to download on our website for free. And lastly, we also deliver the annual Future PMO conference, with this year's virtual event having literally taken place last week. You can get further details on wellington.co.uk and at futurepmo.com. Lastly, we've also worked with quite a diverse mix of clients over the years, but one thing they all have in common is that they all run projects. So you can view a number of case studies on our website, so please do go and check that out by following the link displayed. Some of the names on there might be familiar to you. But before I now start talking about the technology and delve into Microsoft Project, I've got a couple of questions for you all. Nothing too difficult. So do you currently use Microsoft 365, or as it's sometimes referred to as Office 365 within your organization? And have you heard of Microsoft Project for the Web or Project Plan1? So keen to get responses on that.
Okay, guys, so I have that's a question I've popped up on Menti for you. Have you heard of Microsoft Project Plan for the Web or Project Plan1? Just, you know, are you familiar with what it is? Do you know what are you usually using yourself? And you can pop a question or your answer into the Zoom chat as well if you like, if you don't have an opportunity to grab your phone. Actually, gosh, we're getting quite a few people saying no, they haven't heard of it, Baz. There's about 10, we've 17 responses so far, and 10 have said they haven't heard of it and 7 have. So that's interesting.
Good. That's why we're here.
I must admit, I'm fairly new to hearing about it as well. So yeah, so we have a few.
Okay. There's quite a few of you that have not heard of Project Plan1, but that's very good, because that's the purpose of today's session, is to introduce you to it and give you some rationale behind why Microsoft released it in the first place. So with that in mind, I will move on to the next page. But before I do, one thing I do want to point out is that if within your organizations you have Microsoft 365 or Office 365, both the same solutions really, it's just that Microsoft 365 is the newer naming convention behind it. But if you have got that platform, then Project for the Web, as well as Project Online and some of the other Microsoft Project solutions, they're available natively within that ecosystem. So something for you to be aware of. So let's take a quick look at why Microsoft decided to launch the new project. Well, Microsoft realized that it was time for change, and having spoken to quite a few partners and customers to get a better understanding of the big picture, what they found is that we all manage projects, and depending on which department you're in, it might be called a project, a campaign, or product launch, or something else, but fundamentally they are projects. But not everyone is a trained project manager. Not everyone is a certified project management professional. Often the person leading a project happens to be a subject matter expert who's been assigned a project and told to get on with it without any real formal training in project management or any related software. Microsoft also found that we want to manage work in our own unique ways, which means it could be in the traditional waterfall approach, or it could be agile or something in between, and the traditional tools just don't provide that level of flexibility. Collaboration is something that's also vital for the success of any project, but it's often messy. Collaboration for some could literally be a quick conversation or an email exchange. It's very difficult to keep it structured. And it's because of these challenges that teams often go out and grab the first solution that they see that addresses their own immediate needs. And something that the PMOs really struggle with is actually bringing all this data together, because we do want to make sense of it, but it's spread out and it's disorganized, and reporting becomes a manual, time-consuming process and something that PMOs often struggle with. We do need better visibility in order to make better informed decisions, but no one really has an accurate big picture. And again, PMOs without the right tools spend a significant amount of time producing joined up views. So with this in mind, Microsoft have decided to reimagine Project and simplified it. So the new Project for the Web, it's built as a native app on the Power Platform, something that you might be hearing more of. And despite being simplified, it does still feature the same scheduling engine as featured within Microsoft Project, which has over 36 years of development behind it. Project is now also part of the same platform as Dynamics 365. So beyond what I'm demonstrating today, it can be extended with options around adding RAID logs, governance workflows, and a lot more through the addition of Power Apps. And that's something that I'll be covering in the next webinar, which is going to be in Q1 2021. This is really Microsoft's vision. They want teams to work the way in which they want and organizations to get the results that they need. So that brings me on to the demo, and it's time now to see Project Plan 1 in action. However, just before I get into the demo, a very quick caveat that this will be a high-level overview of Project for the Web. However, I will show you some of the standard reports that you get as well as part of Power BI through the content pack that's linked to this. And I'll also demonstrate how you can get access to Project for the Web via Teams, which I suspect that many of you will also be using. And you all hopefully now see the homepage to Office 365. So this is where you get access to all of your different apps. Sorry, was that a question coming in?
No, that was me saying I can see it. Yeah, you're
Oh,
correct.
good. Fantastic. Yeah, so this is where you get access to all of the different apps that you've got access to. But that aside, of course, today's interest is very much around Microsoft Project for the Web. So that's where we're going to head first of all. The very first page that's actually going to load up, it's a relatively new screen called Project Home, and it's been designed to give the end users a single view of their project portfolio, as in projects that they themselves are directly involved in or perhaps managing, or projects that have perhaps been shared with them as well. So here I've got a list of my projects, and I can obviously display more. And what's interesting is that these projects are residing in different systems. So I've got some projects that reside within Project for the Web. And I've also got some projects being displayed that belong to Microsoft Project Online. And not that we're talking about Project Online today, but Project Online is the mature enterprise-wide project and portfolio management solution that Microsoft have had available now for several years in the cloud, but it's been available on-premise for a lot longer than that, since the year 2000 actually. So this again is a bit of a bridge for the end user to bring together all of their projects in a single view. There are plans, from what I know, to bring in planner projects into this view as well. That aside, you have got the ability to add or tag your favorites, and then they are displayed along the top. But what we want to do for now is actually go in and create a brand new project using Project Plan 1, otherwise known as Project for the Web. So a couple of things. First of all, this solution is entirely browser-based. It does not connect to Microsoft Project on the desktop, and it doesn't currently import plans from Project on the desktop either. This is, again, designed as a lightweight solution that really anybody can get to grips with, especially those accidental project managers. And the simplicity here is evident. Long gone is that ribbon toolbar that you would normally see within Project on the desktop. But enough talking, let me go in now and start building up my plan. So we're going to go in, add a new task. Let's just call this setup. I'll type a few in. So we'll take this up to 4. I'm going to go in, start creating some subtasks. And already I've got a bit of a structure to my plan. I can also go in now and start assigning work to individuals. So I'll go in, start typing in the name of one of my colleagues. So there's Megan. And as soon as I select Megan, what the system's asking me to do is to create a group within Office 365 itself. So for those of you that are currently using Microsoft Teams, you're probably familiar with the process of going in, creating teams, adding people to those, and creating channels, and everyone within that group can access all of our content. So this ties in really to that same security model. So here I can either go in and create a brand new group. I can also make it private if I want to. But what I'm going to do in this instance is actually connect to an existing group. So let's go in, let's select this one that I made earlier and add and assign. Now, in a short while, you're going to see the number of group members jump up from 0, which is where it is at the moment, up to 5, I hope. There might be a very slight delay. There we go. So 5 group members now within this team. So everyone that you see listed now has access to this particular project. Now, as part of that, I can also go in and start adding people to these tasks from that specific group. Let's assign something to Lydia as well. I can also start putting in some duration. So let's go for 5 days. We'll do 4 days, 7 days, and let's do 8 days as well. I can add in other columns. So a useful one would be effort. We can also have effort remaining. We can also put in some dependencies, and I'm going to put in a custom field, and we'll call this one status, and we'll come back to that in just a moment. Now, these additional fields that I've put in, these are default for the most part. Again, you have got the ability now to go in and create a brand new field. See if you have a few options there, but cancelling out of that. The standard fields are the typical ones you would expect, things like effort, effort remaining, effort completed, dependencies, and a few others. And of course, the same as you can do within Microsoft Project on the desktop, you can have a differing duration to the stated effort. So even though the stated duration here is 5 days, we might say, well, there's only 8 hours of work to do across those 5 days, so spread it out. We can also go in, add dependencies, as I mentioned earlier, and this is quite handy because unlike Project on the desktop, this is automatically showing me the earlier tasks for me to be able to link in. And if I go to status now, what I'm going to do is something quite interesting. I'm going to add rag indicators, or I was about to say emojis, because that's the window that we first bring up. So now that I've opened this up, I can start tagging. Is it green? Is it amber? Is it red? And of course, I can take some of this out. Going to paste that in as well. Let's do that again. So let's get rid of this. Making a bit of a meal out of this, aren't I? But we can also type in some statuses. So this one is on track. And of course, once you've done this once, you can just copy and paste. At risk. And this one here, we could say this is blocked. I'd be dangerous if I could spell. So God, 3 times. Third time lucky. So again, we can put statuses in. There's a lot that we can do here, but straight away you can see that without really any real training, anybody would be able to access this interface and start delivering projects, or not even delivering, but putting them together. Simple tasks, simple task assignments. You can do all of that here in Project for the Web. I've not titled this project so far, so let's title this now. So Webinar PMI Ireland. And I've got some options there that I can set around the start dates. I can also attach different calendars, but I'm going to exit out of this and show you some of the additional views you can get as part of Project for the Web. So this was very much a traditional grid-based view that many of you are probably familiar with. Some of you have probably played with Microsoft Planner. So this particular view is actually almost a direct lift and shift from Planner. This is essentially the same view. I'm looking at a blank view at the moment where I can go in, add my own custom buckets. So if I click on that, I would just give assign a name to it. But what I'm going to do is go to this view list there and select from one of the standard out of the box views. So let's have a look at progress, which is a default view here. And when I do this, you can see that we've now got the original bucket, which is not started, but I'm also presented with in progress and completed as well. And in order to update the states of a task, I mean, there's a few ways in which I could do it. I could go in, open up the task information, which I'll do in a moment. In fact, no, why don't I do it now? Seeing as it's popped up. So here I could set some information around the tasks themselves. I could also add additional dependencies, but crossing out of this, if I want to now update the status of this, all I need to do is click and drag and drop it into the right bucket. So I've taken task 1, it's now marked as being 100% complete, sorry, 50% complete. And if I take it across to completed, it's now marked as being 100% complete. And when I go back to the grid, you will see that the same information is presented here as well. So effort remaining, 0, 37 hours of work now completed against task 1. Going back to the board, again, this is a really nice view, especially if you're working on relatively simple projects. My personal favorite view happens to be the timeline, which is this view here. And this is the one that you might have seen on some of the standard default marketing videos that Microsoft have been publishing on the likes of LinkedIn. But this is a highly interactive view. So if I now want to update the statuses of these tasks, I can do that in a couple of ways. I can first of all extend or contract the duration of a task. I'll extend this one out. And from here, I'm going to create a very simple dependency. I can do the same thing again. And if I want to mark something as being completed, all I do is tick that circle. And you might have heard that little satisfying ping you often get when you mark your tasks as being completed. You can also zoom in and out. So there's a few things you can do there. But this was a very quick overview of the basic Project Plan 1 interface that Microsoft have provided. You can, of course, extend this using Power Apps. That's something that I'm kind of teasing through the open tabs at the top, but something that I will be showcasing and presenting in much greater detail on the next webinar, again, taking place in Q1 2021. Now, what I am going to do for now, though, is just show you some of the associated reports you can get through Power BI. So let me open that up. No, wrong tab. Let me open this one up here. So these are now some of the standard reports that you get as part of Project Plan 1. So this is a content pack that Microsoft make available freely. So anybody can download this and install this. There's no cost linked to this. As long as you've got Project Plan 1 in place, you will be able to go in and access this data. So Power BI, for those of you that don't know, is an enterprise-wide reporting solution from Microsoft. At the moment, I'm only looking at data that resides and originates from Project Plan 1, but you can really bring in any data source that you want to into this particular view. So we have created reporting packs to merge the data that is generated between Project Online and Project for the Web. But you can also bring in data from third-party solutions like SAP, for example, or Dynamics, or a whole heap of others. And there's a lot of pre-built reports available from Microsoft for many of those solutions that I've mentioned. For now, let's just go back to this particular dashboard. So this is the initial one that you see. It's the portfolio dashboard. And I guess for the most part, this is self-explanatory. It gives you a total breakdown of a number of projects. It shows you the amount of effort that's currently booked within the system, shows you how much of it's been completed and how much is remaining. You can also see the number of projects by progress, effort by project, the number of project managers being managed by individuals. And then here at the bottom, we've got a list of the entire project portfolio that we have currently contained within Project for the Web. And if somebody wants more detail than what's currently being displayed on the screen, all they need to do is click on that hyperlink. And when you do that, it's going to open that plan up in that same interface that we were playing with just a moment ago. So here's another plan that we made a bit earlier that's a bit more colorful than what I've just presented. But if I go back to my reporting pack, let me show you some of the other associated reports. So we also have the portfolio timeline. Might need to refresh this. There we go. Okay, so now I can see a breakdown of all the projects. So there's a listing down the left-hand side. And here I can see the beginning and the end dates of the individual projects. And if I hover over, you can also see the associated information, such as percentage complete, number of hours remaining, for example. So this is another very useful report that shows you recent milestones that have been completed, and it also shows you upcoming milestones, although we don't quite have the data in the system at the moment to drive that aspect of a report. That aside, we also have a basic resource dashboard that's being presented here. So at the moment, there is no real resource pool sitting behind Project for the Web. That's functionality that's going to land in the first half of 2021. But what this is presenting is a very simplistic look at how many hours have been booked against individual resources and showing you this information. So we can see that we've got a total of 15 resources currently booked against the tasks. We can see the statuses of those items as well. And here we've got the breakdown of how many resources assigned per project and tasks by status. And we also see which resources are the busiest and which projects are using the bulk of the resources that we have within the environment. We can also see resource assignments. So if I'm looking at a specific individual like Adele, I can break down and see which project she is involved in. And if I scroll down a tiny bit more, you can also see the individual tasks that she is working on, the start dates, the finish dates, and again, progress updates against those specific items. Some other charts being displayed there at the top. We also have task overview, and I will just whiz through this because there are a couple of other things that I want to show you. So task overview, a listing of all the different tasks between all of the projects, tasks by status, tasks by projects, and by which buckets they sit within. So a lot of information being presented using some of the standard default fields that you have available to you through Project Plan 1. So anybody could really get going with this reporting pack and with Project Plan 1 in very little time at all. We also have a project timeline, which is a bit more detailed than the timeline that we looked at earlier. And hopefully this one's going to load, and it does. So let me zoom into the right time frame. So here we can see a breakdown of a project. So we'll ignore that one at the top. This is Project for the Web. It's actually the name of a project that we've got in the system. And here I can see the individual tasks contained within that project, and I can also see who's working on them. And if I hover over the task items, I again see that complementary information. I can also go in and view my work. So this is now showing me a breakdown of all the tasks assigned to me. And we also have a My Timeline view, which shows me visually when the work's occurring that I'm meant to be working on. So again, I can scroll along and see that information presented back. And the colors, by the way, signify the status of the task. So are they completed? Is it a future task? Is it late or is it overdue? And aside from this, I talked about Microsoft Teams earlier. So Microsoft Teams, again, I suspect that some of you are probably already using Teams. If you're not, then I do encourage you to go and have a look at it, especially if you have Office 365 rolled out within your organization. So Teams is great because it gives you the ability to go in and create teams, as the name would suggest. It gives you a lot more capability just outside of it, but this is one of the core features. So here we have a team that we've created for Project for the Web, and presented along the top are various tabs you see that enable me to work centrally without having to open up multiple tabs in my browser window, which is exactly what I've done there along the top. But Teams is like a glue, brings it all together, and it enables people really to navigate through all of their projects, go to the relevant channels, take part in conversations, access the relevant files, and importantly, they can also go into the live project plans as well. So they might want to go in either to edit or just to view, but either way, you can view all of this information here within Teams. And this has landed on the board view, but I can navigate to any one of the other views that I was playing with earlier. And I talked about Power BI. Power BI is something that we've also embedded here, again, within Teams. So you can see that it does really bind it all together. And here we go. So this is now the portfolio dashboard, as well as all of the other reports being displayed within Microsoft Teams. One thing that I do want to highlight is that for anyone that wants to access Project for the Web, there's really a couple of ways in which you can do it. If you want to have read and write access, then obviously you need to go and get the Project for the Web license, which is relatively cheap. But what Microsoft have done, and this is a really nice move, is they've provided user view access to project and roadmap, which is something that I've not covered off today. But anyone on any one of these plans can go in and view data that comes from Project for the Web. So again, it's a great way in which to increase collaboration and increase visibility of what's going on across the entire organization. And the final point that I'll make as part of this demo is the fact that Microsoft are really listening to what users are requesting. So unlike previous solution releases that Microsoft have had, where the product team have come together, they've defined a scope of what the solution is going to have. These are the features that we want to roll out, and users are given those features. Whereas with Project for the Web, what Microsoft have done is started off with a very simple, very basic release of Project for the Web, and they're listening to the user community. So they want the user community to interact with them. They want them to submit ideas. And you can see some of the ideas that have been submitted by end users being displayed on the screen at the moment. And anybody can go in and vote for these ideas. But Microsoft are interacting. So here's a suggestion: two-way integration with Microsoft Planner and Microsoft Project. Microsoft have come back and said, well, tell us more. What exactly do you mean by that? And many of these items that are being proposed, such as custom fields in Project for the Web, something that we looked at earlier, it's something that Microsoft have now rolled out. So you can really mold or help mold the future direction of this particular solution. So that really concludes my very quick demo of Project for the Web, as well as Microsoft Teams and Power BI. So if you'd like to learn more, I can provide you with a tailored demo around your core objectives. So please do get in touch using the details that are going to be coming up in just a moment, and we would be happy to get that arranged. If you'd like to take a deeper dive, we can also deliver a envisioning workshop, which would normally be used to look at your current ways of working, to understand the pain points, and to show you the art of the possible and the right solution mix based upon what you're looking to do. The outputs from this session are typically tailored implementation roadmaps alongside recommendations for actual next steps. Alternatively, if you do want to get hands-on, we can provide formalized proof of concepts so that you can start visualizing your data within the Office 365 platform. So they're the options that we have available. But that, from my perspective, is the end of a short session. I'm sure you have questions, so please don't hesitate to get in touch using the details displayed. If you want to connect with me on LinkedIn, you can either search me. There is only one Baz Khinda LinkedIn. I have searched multiple times, or you can just scan the QR code via the LinkedIn app on your phone. Please do check out the Wellingtone website. Do follow us on LinkedIn, where we regularly announce new events. However, at this stage, I'm going to hand back to Katrina to get the Q&A session started. So Katrina, back over to you.
Super, thanks very much. I was just going to say, so there's been quite a few questions anyway. So if you're okay, and there's been a few questions asked in Zoom, and I've transferred them across to the Menti, so you don't have to look in one place. So you're not. So I'm going to share my screen. Your contact details will be in the pack that we share afterwards anyway, so hopefully you guys can all see my questions there coming up on Menti. So if anyone has another question or comment, just grab your phone and use the code 5250061. I can try, hopefully Baz, you can see this now, and I will try and stop floating as well. So I think that's my enter key.
I'll try and read them as they're floating around, but
so there is a couple of questions on does Project Plan 1 support critical path, and does it support baselines?
It doesn't at the moment. However, I can say that when it comes to the critical path, that is something that Microsoft are planning on launching within the first half of 2021. And I believe the same is true for baselining as well. So when it comes to baselining, even though it's not something that's built into the solution as it stands, there are workarounds using Power Apps.
Very good. So I would imagine that we would have, as well as having people that aren't fully au fait with the Microsoft Project Suite, or there might even be people on the call that are using things like Primavera. There are people that are very well versed in using Microsoft Project Plan, and I would say that Project Plan 1 probably isn't for them. It's, this is, I would say, for people like me that need something that's a little bit easier for me to understand.
Yeah, again, the target audience for Project Plan 1 was initially the accidental project manager. Exactly. But now that people have started looking at the slick interface, people want more and more capability. So this is the new project, as Microsoft would state it. So I do expect to see more advanced functionality coming. And again, within the first half of 2021, Microsoft are going to make it possible for you to import in your Microsoft project plans, so your MPP files, into Project Plan 1. So again, that's something that's coming.
Oh, very good, very good. And a question here from somebody: can Project for the Web be used without using Teams?
Absolutely. Yeah, Teams is just more of a nice to have value add, but it's not something that's required to run Project for the Web.
Got you. And there was a couple of questions around licensing as well. So I think maybe if you just give a bit of background on how it's licensed.
I will do. Yeah. So Project Plan 1 is a license that you can go and even directly buy. The cost of it is around €7 to €8 per month. I'd have to get some numbers in front of me, but it's relatively cheap for what you're getting. But it's a bolt-on license to Office 365. It's not something we get as part of a standard suite, as part of E3 or E5. It's something that you have to go out and proactively buy.
Okay, and I suppose this I might make the point here, Baz, because we were talking about this yesterday as well. Do find out from your IT department if it is a Microsoft house. So, and if you're using a lot of Microsoft applications, it probably is, and very likely your IT department has some sort of a global license. Even a smaller company, and I work for a small company, will have some form of a license. So it's always worth asking, and it's worth asking them to find out what the price of it could be, because they may well have better rates essentially as well. So don't be shy. Just because you don't see Microsoft Project come up in the suite of applications that you get when you get your laptop or your desktop, do ask the question, because you'll probably find out a bit more essentially.
Absolutely, yeah, it's definitely worth going and speaking to IT. You should also be aware that there are various variants now of Project itself, because you do have Project Professional 365, which is the desktop application. Yeah. Then you do also have what's called Microsoft Project Plan 3 and Project Plan 5. They do give you Project Plan 1 within them, so they do give you access to Project for the Web, but those licenses are for Project Online, which is the more mature solution. But if anybody here has got any specific questions around licensing, feel free to get in touch with me directly. I'd be more than happy to help you out.
Okay, And Baz, we have a question here then on the storage of the files, and I suppose this is probably a concern for a lot of organizations.
Yeah, so unfortunately, fortunately and unfortunately, Project for the Web is only available in the web. You can only store that data within Office 365. If somebody wanted a project portfolio management solution that had all the capability of Project for the Web and more, then you can deploy locally a solution called Project Server, which is the on-premise version of Microsoft Project Online. So it's worth looking at Project Server as a on-prem solution. But what I would say on the perspective of the data being cloud-based, we've worked with some very high-profile government agencies, defense organizations who historically you would have thought would not go to the cloud, but having completed their due diligence, many of them now exclusively use the cloud. So it is worth going and having a look as well at the Office 365 Trust Center, because it does list out all of the certifications that Microsoft have and local, regional certifications that might be appropriate as well.
Very good. And there's actually, and this is a comment I even made myself, I love the graphics. And one of the things that I would struggle with most, and I think most of us have this from time to time, is I've got all my information, but it's about presenting it to usually a group of directors. So there's a couple of comments and questions here around the graphics and Power BI. Someone has actually asked, is it possible to extract them or export them for PowerPoint presentation?
Yes.
Or I guess, how would you do that? How would you go about presenting those graphics that you can see?
Yeah, no, very good question, and you've just caught me out, because that was something I was actually going to demonstrate earlier. But it's not a problem. I can always reshare my screen a bit later. But within Power BI, there is an option at the top which states export. So within Power BI, you would just click on export, and it gives you an option, or it gives you a couple of options. So you could export as a PDF or as a PowerPoint. And something that I would also add is that if you like the report that you saw today, they were the basic reports that Microsoft provide out of the box. We can do a lot more when it comes to visualization. So we can create reports that are, let me say, a lot sexier, shall we say.
Very good, very good. Well, if you want, you can go back and you can demo that.
Should I do that?
Yeah, go for it there. I'll stop sharing my screen.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much.
Like for me, it would be one of the biggest struggles. I'm thinking though, even with the presentation that you had there, that's very easy just to show to a wider group. I wouldn't have to export it to anyone, to show them the actual screen on, within the meeting room, within the virtual meeting room. But for the directors, yeah, the ability to export into PowerPoint is definitely quite useful.
I mean, really, the thought process behind Power BI and reporting in general going forward is that this is live user access. These are interactive reports, so the need to export this information out is becoming less needed, should we say?
Yeah.
So here's a report, and again, we've got a scroll bar there. So again, you would not see what's not being displayed, but in order to export, all you do is go to export, choose PowerPoint, PDF, or you can take it out into Excel for further analysis. I am going to go slightly off tangent now. I'm going to go and show you some additional reports, if you don't mind. And these are reports that are looking at data from Project Online rather than Project for the Web. But again, we can bring Project for the Web data into this. So this is a dashboard that I've built myself using Power BI. So on there, we've got various tiles. Don't know why that hasn't loaded, but we've got various tiles. Beneath each one of these tiles is a detailed report in the background, and we'll go into that in just a moment. But here we've got data coming in from Project Online. We've got data coming in from SharePoint, so we've got information like lessons learned coming through. But we've also brought in some data from other solutions like Microsoft Azure DevOps. So you can really bring in data from multiple data sources. And in fact, if I click on that arrow there, you can see that you can link to other online services. And there's going to be quite a few that you see popping up if I go to all apps.
The joy of sharing.
The joy of a live demo. If something can go wrong, it will definitely go wrong. But okay, we'll come back to that, and I'll cut it out of the final edit as if it never happened. But if I go back to that report I was looking at just a moment ago, I'm going to carry on with that demo. So again, here's the dashboard. One of the great things about Power BI is you can actually go in and ask questions about the data as well. So not everyone is able to write queries or produce pivot tables and do that kind of thing. But if I know my data, I can go in and ask questions. So a question that I'm going to ask is, show me work variant by project name. And I've on purpose misspelled project, but here we've got this report that's just been built. So list of all my projects, I can see the work variance in terms of hours. And if I want to now, I could pin this back to my existing dashboard, then everybody with access to it would be able to see it. But if I exit out of this, I'm just going to show you some additional reports. And these are reports that, again, look at the data from Project Online, but we can produce something very similar with Project for the Web. So this is similar to what we saw previously, but if you belong to a multinational organization, then this kind of view might be quite useful. You want to see where in the world or where across Ireland in different regions projects are taking place. And you can then zoom into those specific locations as we're doing here.
Yeah, that's very good actually. I wouldn't need that in my current role, but I can definitely see previous jobs I've had where that would have been fantastic.
Yeah, and even when it comes to things like resource availability, we can also produce things like heat maps as well. So again, over and above what we've looked at today, there's a lot more that we can do with this.
I would say just on the resource availability, it's, for me, in my experience, it's the holy grail of project management.
It is.
If you can find something that can visualize availability of resources, it's a pain point.
No, it's very difficult
always.
to deliver projects without people, isn't it? And a lot of the time, because you don't really have a joined view of your schedules alongside the resource, you don't have that single view. So a lot of the time, project managers are going ahead, producing what looks like a beautiful Gantt chart that is not achievable in the real world because people aren't available. But through solutions like Project Online and in due course through Project for the Web, these types of issues become a remnant of the past because you will get access to this kind of visibility. One final thing I'll show you actually whilst I remember. So as well as being able to export things out, you can also actually bookmark reports. So if you've gone through and set lots of filters across all of your reports, rather than having to cycle through each and every report and then reset the filters manually, you can just add bookmarks and cycle through the bookmarks. You can also subscribe people to these reports as well. So if I want a specific colleague, so let's go back to Megan. To receive that particular report, I can type in a subject, some description around it, specify which report I want Megan to receive, set the frequency, and save and close. And then Megan would start receiving this report in her inbox. And I think I do have an example of that actually. So this is now Megan that I've logged in as. And if I go to my mail, there we can see a subscription that I've set up previously for this. So if I click into that, I'm going to see a zoomed up picture of that particular report. But again, it's not interactive. But from here, I can go directly now to the report and start interacting with it. Hopefully that answers your Power BI questions.
Yeah, I think it looks very good to me, and it definitely, like I was saying it myself, it's an area that I would struggle with. Have all the information, but how do you present it to people? So it's good that it will come out of the one product. So I'll come back and I'll share here again. I think we've probably gone through the questions, but we will have a quick look. So if anyone has a question, pop it into the menti.com now. I think we've kind of gone through. There was a good few questions on graphics and presentation, which you've covered. Actually, there's a question here on training on this. I think you did cover that off, but is it maybe that's something that we can cover off in the pack afterwards if it is possible to get training on this? It would be good, I think.
Absolutely. Yeah. So Microsoft directly don't provide any training. So if you were to go to Leopardstown, Microsoft Dublin, they don't themselves provide any training courses around this. Microsoft is very much an organization that relies on its partner community. So partners such as ourselves, Wellingtone, we would be the ones that would deliver training. And traditionally, we would deliver in-person training. So, delivering training in Dublin would not be a problem. At the moment, in the current climate, any training that we provide is virtual via Microsoft Teams, but we can provide that. And we've been doing so now since the beginning of March. I can see a few of the questions. There was one about Smartsheet, and I think somebody was asking, is this a competitor? It is a competing solution. The difference being the project for the web, behind the scenes, it is Microsoft Project in a simplified view. It's also part of your Office 365, the Microsoft 365 ecosystem. So it means that from an IT perspective, everything is rationalized into one location. And there's also very good native integration now with Microsoft Teams. And there's much more coming in the way of capability. And as you will see in the next webinar, what Microsoft are providing is not a standalone project management solution. They're providing a platform, a work management / project management platform where you can really build and mold the solution that's ideal for you, but all within the confines of Office 365.
So just a question there, not everyone in our organization has access to Power BI, and actually that would be the same in my organization as well. So is it possible to share the dashboards? Is that probably similar to the reports question?
Yes, you can. So there's a couple of things really. So again, you've got that read-only access for Project for the Web. Anyone that's got that license can also access the Power BI reports as long as you have even maybe the free version of Power BI. But you can also, I don't know if everyone's aware of this, but as well as getting Power BI in the browser, you can also get it on the desktop as an application for free. So you can run reports locally as well.
Okay. So it seems like there's a lot of options around reporting, which I think
there is. Yeah. And there are further conversations that are required to bottom out all of the options applicable to you, but certainly it's quite flexible.
Okay, very good. I think we've probably gone through most of them there.
See if there's anything else.
Dashboards, visuals. We answered the question around the critical path and the baselines, which aren't covered for now. Okay, well that's it. So unless there's any more questions on it, so what's the plan, Baz? You and I talked about it earlier. Was to we're going to share a recording of the demo, essentially, like we normally do with our events, so that everyone can get access to the demo. I know there's pieces of it I probably want to go back through myself as well, and we normally share the pack. We share the slides and we share any contact details. So we will share a recording of the demo as well, so we can go back through it. And anyone obviously that hasn't been able to join us as well, they'll get that update on the PMI chapter webpage as well. So they'll be able to see all of that. And I think you were talking about maybe the plan is to come back at some stage in the future, maybe early next year, and do a more in-depth demo as well.
Absolutely. So a demo demonstrating how you can extend Project for the Web with Microsoft Power Apps and Power Automate. So that's something that I can cover off in a live session in the future. But if anybody wants to see that sooner than that, then please, again, feel free to get in touch. I'd be more than happy to take you through demos.
That sounds good. And I know we'll be in touch with you anyway, like I said, to get a more extended demo sometime early in the new year. Okay, fantastic. Well, that's it from everyone. Hopefully we've answered everybody's questions at this stage, and hopefully you've gotten something out of that. Like I said, it is one option. It is one product that's out there that you can give a go. And I would say that historically, and I'll include myself in this, Microsoft Project has had a tendency to be quite technical and maybe a little bit frightening, essentially. So from my view of this, it's sort of maybe just made it a little bit more accessible and a little bit more usable to, as you said yourself, to the accidental project manager. So hopefully it's given some people a little bit of a taster. Maybe it's encouraged you to go back into the Microsoft application and have a look at it and stop using the Excel spreadsheets, essentially. Maybe try something more detailed. And the reporting piece for me is a definite win, because it is an area I definitely struggle with. You have all the information. It doesn't seem to matter how you present it. Somebody wants to present it in a different way. So having a project planning tool that actually allows you to do that as well is very useful.
Yeah. From me personally, thank you to everyone for taking the time to attend this session today. I really do appreciate it. If you've got any questions, definitely get in touch. More than happy to answer any questions via email or to jump onto Teams meetings. But again, thank you very much. And thanks, Katrina, for hosting.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Thank you very much. Like I said, I've gotten a lot out of this as well. So guys, thanks again. I'll just share a couple of, like I always do, there's usually just a small wrap up, and hopefully I will be able to share that with you really quickly and send you back to your lunch and your office, hopefully. So as usual, guys, you get this a technical PDU this time, which I know are kind of sought after because we've had quite a few strategic and leadership PDUs for the last number of webinar sessions. So if you registered and we will automatically upload that PDU for you. And as we just discussed there, we will share the webinar pack on the webpage, and we will also share the demo as well, so that you get an opportunity to go back in and have a look at that. And that might even be useful for training purposes. If some of you have discovered now that you actually maybe already have the ability to get a license from your IT department, so you'll have a demo that you can go back and look at. Check out the PMI website for the calendar of events, and don't forget you can also use the projectmanagement.com and the PMI ECC webinars as well. So we've got quite a few coming up for you at the moment, and we've some more coming in. So one thing to note to you is we are planning a special evening event for International Project Management Day, which is on the 5th of November. So bookmark the date, the 5th of November, and check out the website. Just in the next week, we will have a special evening event coming up that you'll be able to join. Okay, so that's it for now, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us. We'll sign off for another week, and we'll see you again in 2 weeks' time for our next webinar. Okay, thanks very much, Baz, and thanks
Katrina.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.